any inconvenience. Just this is after I think more than 2 years we didn't use it. So the pandemic disturbed everything. So alhamdulillah, we are back. Today program is why we say that it's very important. These are the questions of our community, the brothers and sisters. They come up and they say that we are working in a company, we are working with someone, the credit cards, they are dealing with the credit cards and they are dealing with the companies, they are the employees of the company where the company has some interest transactions. The brothers are confused that are they allowed, is it permissible for them to be Muslim and at the same time to be part of that company or that business? Some brothers, they come and they say that we are working in the 7-Eleven, is it allowed or not? Some other stores and many types of businesses that the people, they are confused, they don't know. This is the right time today that our guest, Dr. Main Al-Quda, his specialty is, this is what I mentioned. I think the best answer we will get inshallah from our Sheikh, Dr. Sahib. I request him to, inshallah, to continue with the program, but just to let you know that the program, inshallah, will continue for about 45 minutes. 40 to 45 minutes, the Sheikh will give a lecture, and then we will open the session for the question and answers, inshallah. So just gather your questions, whatever you have in your mind, and after the lecture, after the talk, inshallah, you can ask the question direct from the Sheikh. The sisters, if you have any question, you can ask, inshallah. We have enough time, and inshallah, once the program is over, we will make our way to the basement for the dinner, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khair. Barakallahu.
Yeah, that's good. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو وإليه النشور أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين اللهم إنا أمسينا منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتم علينا نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم ما أمسى بنا من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. أحبتي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا for letting me visit with this community for the third time. I was talking to my brother Abu Mateen yesterday. He said that this is the third visit, and mashallah, he has a very strong memory. He remember what were the topics that we discussed in the first and the second time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him. So our topic for tonight will be slightly different. As you see here, it is financial stability for the Muslim family. Very interesting and very sensitive issue because we face a lot of contemporary financial issues in which if you go to the classical, fiqh books and read, you might not find a satisfactory answer for them. Before I move on, let me just make a few disclaimers here. This is a 63 different slides, and I don't think we'll be having enough time to go through them one by one. I'll be focusing on the most important topics in order for us to have enough time for question and answer. I know that you have a lot of comments and questions to make. The second thing, some of the fatwa actually have been mentioned here in this presentation might differ from one time to another. I might have like a previous or an old opinion in the past, and then I change my mind later on. So not every single thing like mentioned here actually is, I would say, up to date. That's the nature of fiqh. I mean, sometimes we rethink about certain issues, and we might change our minds. The third thing, as you see here, when we talk about financial stability, it's not something unnecessary. It's not a cosmetic issue, as we say. No, this is actually a part of our deen. This is a part of our deen, and I want all of us to have in mind that when we discuss our financial stability, in a sense that we do our best to make sure that we are financially stable and sustainable during our lifetime, and after we pass away from this life, to make sure that our kids, our family members are financially stable. We are not doing something cosmetic or something unnecessary. This is actually a part of our religion. And to make it clear, look at the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he said, اليد العليا خير من اليد السفلى. The upper hand is better than the lower hand. Of course, the better hand, the upper hand is the hand of someone who is financially stable, someone who is well off, someone who has extra or surplus wealth, so much so that he is willing to give up some of his money. Unlike the other one of the lower hand. Lower hand actually is the hand of someone who is in need, so much so that he cannot survive by himself. That's why he's asking, or at least he's waiting for a sadaqah and donation from other people. We do not want to be the one of the lower hand. Let's do our best to be the one of the upper hand. And the Prophet ﷺ again is the one who is establishing this fact that being with the upper hand is way better than being with the lower hand. اليد العليا خير من اليد السفلى. The other thing, when one of the companions, Sa'd radiallahu anhu, wanted to get the approval, okay, or the blessing or the fatwa of the Prophet ﷺ to bequeath a good portion of his wealth upon his death. That's called wasiyah. Right? To bequeath is to write down or to ask for a certain portion of your wealth to be given to non-inheritors. So his plan actually was to give up 2/3 of his wealth, okay, because he was about to die, leaving behind only one daughter. And as you all know, in the Islamic inheritance law, if you pass away with the daughter, she is entitled for one half of your wealth. So he said 2/3. Prophet ﷺ said, no, this is too much. He said, how about 1/2? He said, 1/2 is too much. He said, how about 1/3? Okay, can I bequeath 1/3 of my estate? He said, الثلث والثلث كثير. 1/3 is fine, and even 1/3 is too much. And then the Prophet ﷺ justified this fatwa by saying, إنك, as you see here, إنك إن تذر ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تذرهم عالة يتكففون الناس. Leaving your inheritors, your family members, your legal heirs, your wife, your kids, and your parents if they are still alive, leaving them wealthy or financially stable, if you wish, is way better than leaving them needy, begging people. So this is the base of the fact that talking about financial stability actually is a part of our religion. Make no mistake about it that the most important means or method of securing this financial stability is the work, is the profession or the career that we have. One of the challenges that we face in this society is how to find a halal job or the most halal job possible, because we live in a non-Muslim society and the whole economic and finance system is completely different from the system not completely, significantly different from the system in the Muslim world. Thus, having enough options, for us to pick and choose from is not the case comparison to those who still live in the Muslim society. To find a halal job is a struggle. This is one of the taxes actually that we pay in this society, that you have to keep searching and searching until you find something that is halal enough, so you have a peace of mind that whatever you feed your kids, you feed them from a halal resource. It's not that easy, but it is doable, and we have to keep striving. We have to keep striving and struggling sometimes until we make sure that our source of income actually is halal, or at least as halal as possible. And you see those ayat and hadith where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the example of someone who was fed from haram resources. Okay, it's a long hadith, but he said, فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. How come that he is expecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to respond positively to his dua while actually he was eating from haram resources. So one of the main reasons behind the acceptance of our dua is to make sure that our source of income actually is a halal one. In our Fiqh Council, Amjad, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, we hold an annual Imams Conference, and we choose a certain topic. We submit research papers, we discuss them, we come up with conclusions. One of the annual Imam conferences that we held was, I think, back in 2010, 2009, 11, something like this. It was about, as you see here, careers in between permissibility and prohibition. Or if you prefer to read it in Arabic, it's ما يحل ويحرم من المهن والوظائف والأعمال. We did a lot of research. We brought a lot of experts, people in different fields, and we did our own study, and we came up with our own conclusion. You can read in our website if you go to amjaonline.org, and just look for ما يحل ويحرم من المهن والأعمال والوظائف. You will find a lot of details about working in the media, in the IT industry, for example, interest-based institutes, insurance companies, tax services, accounting, court of law. Can you work as a judge in this society? Can be a public prosecutor? Can you work as an attorney? Engineering field, real estate, convenience stores, taxi drivers, car dealership. I mean, you have a lot of actually details. If you go there and read, you will find, inshallah, some informative, beneficial, information for you. Some quick advices. Not all of them actually are fiqh rules. They're just advices. I mean, you might take them, you might not. Maybe some of them are fiqh rules, but not all of them. Since we are discussing financial stability, for those who are dealing heavily in the stock market, which is, believe it or not, most probably the case for all of us, whether directly or indirectly. Because if you have a saving account, for example, for the education of your kids, maybe AGMA, maybe 529, you are dealing in the stock market. If you have a retirement account, whether individual retirement account or employer retirement account, you are dealing in the stock market. Not by yourself, somebody else actually is doing the job on your behalf. But at the end of the day, you are the account holder, you are the account owner. So you are dealing actually in the stock market in a way or another. General advices for us bread makers, like the heads of the family, of the household, the one who is financially responsible, to sponsor the rest of the family. What should you take into consideration? Always keep enough cash money, and you need to develop this habit, this very good practice by yourself, and you make sure that your family members are on the same page. Okay, you need to train them how to appreciate saving and putting some money aside. If you make $7,000 and you spend those $7,000 every single month, I assure you that you can live with $6,700. You can put $300 aside if you decide to save money. If you decide to make it a priority, you will find a way or another to put some money aside. Allah forbids, but you do not know, you never know when and where and for how long you might need that cash that you put aside. Of course, if you do have some assets and you do not have cash money and you get laid off because of the pandemic, because of COVID-19, because of whatever recession the economy might go through, the very first thing to come to your mind is to tap in the assets that you have and to start liquidating or compromising them to have some cash money to survive. It will never be the case if you do have enough cash saving that you put aside. Do not put all eggs in one basket, as they say. If it is your decision to invest, do not limit your investment in the stock market of the United States. Invest internationally, because the U.S. economy is not as stable as it was before. Maybe you still remember the 2008 housing collapse that impacted like different industries in the U.S. With the pandemic, we have been impacted severely, most of us. So yes, it is safe, it is profitable, but it's not as as safe, as convenient as it was before. So diversify your investment, live below your means, which is a part of the saving, habit that you should develop. Okay, make sure that you spend based on what you need, not based on what you have. Okay, we parents and grandparents are financially, I would say, more responsible and more conservative. Maybe because we have gone through some tough financial circumstances in the past, but unfortunately it's not the case with our kids. Most of them, they spend based on what they have, not based on what they need. Well, we need to help them developing a habit, a very good practice, which is how to spend money based on what you need, not based on what you have. If you do have $500 cash available, accessible, spendable, and you need only 200, do not spend the 500. I mean, you can spend the 500, but you should not. This is actually a part of the Islamic manners, the matter of fact that we need to consider. وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Leading an extravagant lifestyle is not a good Islamic practice. Is not a good Islamic practice. Pay off expensive debts. Again, I'm not going to go through like every single slide because we have a lot of things to discuss, and my time is limited. So I would love to give you as much time as possible for discussion, for a question, inshallah, and answer. Track your spending to make sure that you spend within your budget and you spend accordingly. If you realize any kind of leakage in the money, right, you need to stop everything and to investigate what's going on, who spent what, and what is the reason behind spending. If you designate like a certain budget for transportation, for health care, for food, for medicine, for whatever, make sure toward the end of the year that you are limiting yourself to whatever you have decided ahead of time. Otherwise, I mean, things will go out of control. Review your credit report in order for you to take advantage of any refinance opportunity from like, one time to another. Some good opportunities might pop up for you to refinance, of course, in an Islamic way. And without having very good credit scores, you won't be like, being able to take advantage of those refinancing opportunities. If you are talking about 620, 650, you will not be benefiting from refinancing. But you are in the average of 750, 790, almost 800. That is the ideal credit score that you need to strive to reach. Check your financial advisor if you are investing in the stock market. Do not pick any financial advisor randomly. With all due respect, not every single certified wealth manager or advisor is good for you. You need to read some reviews and see, what kind of review the customers of that particular individual actually have about him. Make sure your investments are safe, which is most probably the case if you open an account that it is secured by or insured by the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. If it is an investment, a kind of investment, it should be insured by the SIPC. I would say it's most probably the case. Having any kind of investment in the stock market, okay, do not predict the future, because with all due respect, the fact that you have been investing in the stock market for 5 or 7 or 10 years does not make you expert enough to make a decision. There's a difference between the financial advisor who has certain tools and adawat where he or she can put together to predict the future and to come up with the most I would say reasonable decision for you as far as your investment strategy is concerned, versus the one who is just putting the money in the stock market, which is you and I, the customers. So again, the fact that I have been investing in the stock market for the last 10, 15 years does not make me by default an expert to predict the future and to make decisions. Your job is to choose the right person for you to lead the effort of investing your money, but do not decide on his behalf. Let him take his responsibility and decide for you, and do not decide for yourself. Do not stop contributing to 401k. I know some brothers, Jazakumullahu khairan, out of taqwa and piety and righteousness, believe it or not, they gave up their 401k completely. They do not even have any kind of retirement account. And when you ask him a question, why do not you have a retirement account? The answer is because there is no assurance that my investment is 100% halal. There is no assurance that my investment is not 100% halal. Well, this is way too much. This is way too much. Okay? You should strive, you should do your best to make sure that your investment is as halal as possible. But I can assure you, whether you live here in this society, or you live overseas, or live in any of those Muslim countries who strive to have their economic and finance system as halal as possible, there is nothing nowadays exists called 100% halal investment. It does not exist, as simple as that. Okay? Every single account that you have in the stock market is contaminated, believe it or not, with a certain percentage of haram, right? Your job, your responsibility is to make sure that your investment is as halal as possible. As halal as possible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Be conscious to your Lord as much as you can. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, إِذَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِأَمْرٍ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. When I command you to do something, do it as much as you can. If you can purify, scrutinize, filterize your investment in the stock market and make it 100% Sharia compliant, go for it. Go for it. But if you cannot, this does not mean that you have to drop or to compromise your 401k or your retirement account. Remember the hadith that I started my presentation with, which is إِنَّكَ أَن تَذَرَ وَرَثَتَكَ أَغْنِيَاءَ. Leaving your inheritors financially stable is way better than leaving them needy, begging people. What will happen if you pass away suddenly without having a good plan and a good retirement account for your family members, right? Do not say that we depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is true, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually is the one who ordered you to take all the possible measures to be as financially stable as possible. So your tawakkul and reliance and dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not contradict the fact that you have to do your best. Yeah, and if you compromise your 401k or your investment account, you are not doing your best to assure financial stability for yourself and for your family members. By the way, if you did your best, okay, you find yourself unable to roll over your account from Fidelity or from Vanguard, for example, to any of those socially responsible Muslim-based mutual fund companies, right? You are unable to. And you do not have the flexibility or the authority or the power to custom design your own portfolio. And you reach the conclusion that you do have between 15 to 20% haram investment. That haram could be coming from bonds, from derivatives, from options, from what else, CDS and CDO and all these different financial instruments. And you could not dispose them, or you could not replace them with something else. What should you do? You just keep your account as is. Keep it as is. Toward the end of the fiscal year, or whenever you pay zakat al-mal, find out how much is the approximate haram involved in this account. Let's say, for example, 20%, right? You just dispose 20% of the profit or the growth of that account, and you pay zakat al-mal on the rest of it, and that will be it. That will be it. Now, the fact that you have a certain percentage haram involved in your retirement account does not mean that the whole account became haram. If you have a 20% haram, 80% halal, it means that 80% of the profit and the growth that you make on an annual basis is halal, while 20% actually is haram. There is nothing in our deen, in our sharia, that those 20% would prohibit, jazakallah khair, Shaykh, Allah yakram, that those 20% would prohibit, okay, or contaminate the rest of the account. And vice versa, the 80% halal that you have in your account do not make the remaining 20% halal. Whatever is halal, whatever is haram is haram. So you need to be flexible and open-minded enough how to handle the situation, which is actually the case for all of us here. I mean, no one can claim that his or her retirement account is 100% halal, especially if it is a retirement account through your employer. Okay, maybe in very few cases, if you custom design your own portfolio, and you have an individual retirement account, you might be, reaching, I would say, 90, 92, 93% halal. But when it comes to retirement accounts, whether 401k with your company or 403b, if you work for non-for-profit organizations, or pension plan if you work for the government, there is nothing called halal, right? Your job is to find out how much haram involved in it and try your best to replace it with something halal. If not, try to find out, just to track it in a way or another, how much haram involved in your account. How much haram involved in your account. Get rid of, dispose the exact percentage of profit or the approximate percentage of profit. As I said, I mean, if you reach the conclusion that the haram is between 15 to 20%, well, let's make it 20%. Every single year, dispose 20%, get rid of 20% of the growth or the profit or the dividend or whatever you call it that you have in that account, and then after that, pay zakatul mal on it, based on what I will be inshallah explaining, and that will be it. But please do not compromise your pension plan or your retirement account. Do not make sudden moves in your investment. Do not give up on stocks, because stocks actually are the most, well, they are the only halal option that you have. Nowadays we have a lot of financial instruments in the stock market in which even understanding the mechanism or the way that they work is not that easy. If you have a CDS or CDO or option or options, we have different options, and none of them actually is a good option for practicing Muslims. How do they work? How can you make money? It's really, really hard even to understand the mechanism of how those different financial instruments work. Leave aside, to be halal options. So you have to limit yourself actually to stocks, and stocks that belong to companies where their core business is a halal one. I will elaborate inshallah more. Do not pay high management fees. Do not follow the herd. Okay. Do not forgo necessary insurance. When it comes to insurance, I'll be discussing it inshallah in details, because this is again a part of the financial stability that we are discussing. But let me just emphasize here: do not forgo necessary insurance. If you think, let's talk about health insurance. If you think that financially you cannot afford paying $1,500, for example, premium on monthly basis for yourself and your family members, right? You are like laid off and you have to take care of your premium. It's too much, you cannot afford it. Well, that's understandable. Do not compromise your insurance. Do not compromise it completely. Maybe you can play with the policy itself. Maybe you can reduce the premium in order for you to increase the deductible, right? The more premium you pay, the less deductible you have to match. Am I correct? Well, you can make it 1,000 per month and say 500. Okay. Consequently, you have to automatically actually the deductible will be increasing. But at the end of the day, you do have health insurance that is good enough for necessities. Allah forbids, like if something that's really serious where you need tens of thousands of dollars, at least you are not uninsured. You do have a kind of health insurance. Do not invest in anything you do not understand. As I said, I mean, we have too many financial instruments in the stock market in which even understanding the mechanism, how do they work, okay, it's really hard. And the vast majority of them are not allowed, for Muslims to get involved in. Second part of the presentation, as you see here, bank-free financing. Bank-free financing. What do I mean by bank-free financing? When I want to establish a business, or upgrade my current business, or finance or mortgage my own house, the very first thing comes to my mind is to go to the closest bank and to apply for a loan. Is that correct? To go to the closest bank or to shop around and look for like a good, a loan with a good term, with as minimum APR as possible. That is not a good option. It's not even a halal option for Muslims. What I want in this part of the presentation is to emphasize the importance of activating different Islamic modes of finance. Okay, very simple example. I want to finance a house, okay, and I do not even want to deal with those so-called Islamic mortgage companies. I know someone who is wealthy enough in my community. I can approach him, ask him to buy a certain house for me, okay, based on murabaha, which is a cost plus, based on murabaha mode of finance. He buys that house for $300,000. He becomes the owner of the house. He becomes the liable party of that house, the legal owner of the house. So he buys it like a spot sale because he does have enough cash for $300,000. And then he can sell it back to me for $500,000 within 20, 25, or 30 years in installment. So he buys it spot sale and he sells it to me credit sale. That's called murabah, and it is halal. If it is done accordingly, it is halal. Any kind or any mode, okay, any mode of Islamic finance has to have a certain amount of risk or liability, because Islamic finance in this very particular regard is based on the risk sharing, not risk shifting. Okay? Risk shifting actually is to have one party completely responsible for the loan. You go to Chase, for example, you apply for $100,000 investment loan or business loan. Okay, you know from day one that $100,000 plus 3 or 4% APR has to be paid back to Chase anyway. You make a profit, you break even, you incur loss, the bank does not care about you. Okay? The profit is yours, and the loss actually is your liability or your responsibility. You take money, you guarantee the money, you guarantee the return on their investment, which is 3 or 4%. That's called, in technical term, it's called risk shifting, which means that the bank is not taking any responsibility whatsoever. You are the responsible, you are the liable party. It's not the case when it comes to Islamic finance. Instead of going with the risk shifting, we go with the risk sharing, which means that we establish a genuine and sound and actual partnership between you and the bank. Okay, in a way that if there is a profit, everybody will be enjoying the profit. If you break even, the bank actually cannot claim any profit on the money that he provided. If you incur loss and you lost even your principal, and it is proven that you did not get involved in any kind of negligence or carelessness, I mean, there was no shortcoming from your end, believe it or not, the bank even cannot go after you. Because, I mean, this is the nature of the partnership between you and the bank. Okay? If you take a very, very practical example, if you want to finance your house through musharaka means partnership, right? You pay 5%, 7, 10%, okay, of the price of the house, and the Islamic mortgage company pays the rest of it, right? So both of you and the Islamic mortgage company become the joint owners of that property, and accordingly, any expense, whether it is insurance or tax or maintenance, like major maintenance expenses, have to be actually assumed accordingly, proportionally between you and the Islamic mortgage company. Okay? If you are 70% owner after 10, 15 years, and they are 30% owners, 30% of the tax is their responsibility. 30% of the maintenance is their responsibility, right? 30% of the insurance is their responsibility. If something happened and the insurance did not cover, believe it or not, they have to incur the loss of 30% of the house. So this is the nature of the Islamic finance system when it comes to risk shifting versus risk sharing. We go with the risk sharing and not with the risk shifting. Does this actually exist in the real life? Unfortunately, no. Most of those so-called, Islamic mortgage companies and Islamic investment companies, they manipulate the rules. They manipulate the rules in a way or another that they set themselves free from taking any liability. And that's why I always say, if we have a genuine and sound and authentic Islamic finance practice, because sometimes the Islamic finance is there, but it's not authentic enough. It's not halal enough. Some people try to manipulate or just play with the terms to make it looks like as if it is halal, but the reality is that it is otherwise. You see here, for example, mudaraba. Mudaraba is a kind of partnership, okay, between two different parties, work and management from one side, money from the other side. The money provider is the financier, right? And the work provider is the manager. So we have amilul mudaraba and we have rabbul mal. Rabbul mal actually is the money provider, is the financier. Okay? It's a very simple concept. You give your money to someone who is available enough and expert enough in a certain field. You do have a lot of money, but you do not have time to run that business or to establish your own business, right? Or you do have, but you are not that expert. And you have an interest, for example, in car dealership or furniture business. You give your money to someone who is already in business to upgrade his business based on mudaraba. Whatever the agreement might be, you can share the profit with him without you being involved in the actual management of the business day to day. Management is his job and not your job, and you can share the profit with him on whatever you agreed upon. If there is a profit, everybody will be enjoying the profit. If there is no profit, you cannot go after him asking for return on investment. And if he loses the money without being negligent or careless, then believe it or not, you cannot even go after him asking for your money. That is the nature of Islamic finance. It's all about risk sharing and not risk shifting. We do believe that the conventional mortgage system, not mortgage, the conventional finance system actually brings a lot of injustice and unfairness, because one party is taking the whole responsibility, the other party actually is setting himself liable free. Moving on, whether it is ijara or istisna or musharaka, okay. Third part of this presentation is about halal stock market, different options for investors. To keep it simple, there is a difference between individual retirement accounts versus employer retirement accounts. When it comes to individual retirement accounts, you are the person in charge. You can set your own portfolio. You can choose the most conservative or the most halal industries that you are interested in. Okay, you have an AGMA account for your minor son or daughter. You have 529 for the education of your kids. You have an individual retirement account. You have a simple investment account, brokerage account, right? You have just a mutual fund account with any of those socially responsible mutual fund companies. You set your own portfolio, you custom design, you choose whatever industry that you are interested in, you put that portfolio together, and you are responsible for your choice. It's not the case when it comes to employer retirement account. Again, whether it is 401k or 403 or pension plan, in most cases, you are not the most influential party in making decisions on how your money should be invested. It's not. Okay? The best you can do is just to sit with the wealth manager, and he or she gives you like 5 different options. This is portfolio number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And this one has 50%, this one has 70% financed. I mean, you just pick and choose. This is the best you can do. As I emphasized a few minutes ago, if you are unable to make sure that your 401k or your retirement account is not the way that you want, keep it as is, track the haram percentage involved in, okay, and just get rid of the exact or approximate profit, okay, or growth that you experience on an annual basis, right? And then pay zakatul mal on the rest of the account, and that will be it. You are purifying the haram that's involved in it. But please do not compromise your retirement account. Certain financial instruments are to be avoided, like the CDS and CDO and bonds, for example, and derivatives, etc. Okay, leverage, some stocks. Okay. In our fiqh council and some other like Islamic organizations, they set certain criteria to invest in the stock market. Some of us might think that, okay, if I buy the stocks of companies that belong to a halal industry, right? This is by itself is a sufficient standard to adopt to make sure that my investment is halal, right? For example, if I buy or trade in Microsoft stocks or Apple stocks, I would assume that my investment is halal. Well, believe it or not, it's not the case. The fact that those stocks belong to companies where their core business is a halal one is one standard only, and it's not everything. What are the rest of the criteria that you have taken into consideration? Number one, in addition to the like belonging to a halal industry, number one, the debt asset ratio should not exceed 30%. Debt asset ratio means that if they do have money as a loan, as a debt, borrowed from banks, okay, and that cash money represents 30% or more from the value of the stock, then you cannot trade in that stock, even if the stock belongs to Apple or to Microsoft or to All Green or any halal business. Why? Because the percentage of the cash involved actually is too much. It means that you are like, trading money for money. You see? Number two, the interest-based investment should not exceed 30% of the asset of the company. Again, some companies have a lot of cash, regardless where did they get the money from. If they invest, if 30%, 30% of the value of the stock is cash money invested in CDs, like certified deposit or like traditional saving account, you cannot trade in that particular stock, even if the stock belongs to a halal company. Number three, you have to make sure that the actual interest generated by that company does not exceed 5% of its annual revenue. Those are the standards that we have to check to make sure that our investment is as halal as possible. Someone might ask, how can I make sure that it is the case with my portfolio? Well, there is no way to know. You need to run your portfolio by specialized, certified wealth manager who does have an access to certain database to do his own analysis on what kind of portfolio you have, okay? What kind of diversity you have in that portfolio, how many, how big is the percentage of the stocks, and within the stocks, to which industries they belong to, right? And then he needs to dig in depth and find out the debt asset ratio and the interest bearing, investment, and the actual interest generated, toward the end of the year. We do have a lot of so-called Muslim-based, socially responsible mutual fund companies. They are not in the same level of Sharia compliance. Some of them are really serious, diligent, dedicated. They have like Sharia Advisory Board. The Sharia Advisory Board is active enough, involved enough. Sharia Advisory and Supervisory Board. Advisory in a sense that they set standards for that company to follow. Supervisory Board in a sense that they do a Sharia audit to make sure that the standards set for the investment are implemented accordingly. Okay. Just example of those companies, we have Izzad Fund, we have Amana, we have Iman Fund, we have Sharia Portfolio. Okay. As I said, they are not in the same level when it comes to Sharia compliance. Some of them are really dedicated, serious, and some of them are not. Problem here is that in most cases, we as customers, as clients, we cannot assure how accurate the statement that they make is. Everybody says nowadays that, we are the most strict Sharia compliant, company. How can you verify or investigate? There is no way, because we do not have an access to their database. What kind of standards they have? Do they follow the standards that they set for themselves or not? We do not know. In new investment companies, like for example, Zaki Financial, it's not written here, Zaki, Z-A-K-I, ZakiFinancial.com. Actually, this is a new investment company. They might turn to practice as a mutual fund company. I'm the Sharia advisor of this company. So when I tell you that Zaki Financial actually investment is good enough, I know what I'm talking about because I'm the Sharia advisor, okay, or consultant of that company. Another company called Atina.co, Atina, A-A-T-I-N-A-A, Atina.co. I'm the Sharia advisor of that company, so I know for a fact what kind of Sharia compliance and what kind of investment actually they have. Halal industries, just for example, okay, air transport. auto parts, automotive. You read here heavy trucks, environmental, electronic equipment. I mean, the industries actually are not the companies. The industries are halal by default. But this does not mean that every single company that you buy as a stock that belongs to, for example, drugs or medicine or electric utility. It does not mean that, okay, that company is halal by default, right? Again, maybe for the second or third time, the fact that those stocks belong to companies where their core business is halal does not necessarily mean that the stock itself actually is a halal one. More than that, believe it or not, certain portfolio or certain stock might be halal based on the criteria that I already explained in the first half of the year. And because the policy of the company has been changed as far as the debt asset ratio and the investment, that stock might become a haram one. It was halal in the beginning of 2021 and it became haram toward the end of the year because of the percentage of interest or percentage of haram get involved. And that's why if we do have an active Sharia advisory and supervisory board, that board actually has to check the portfolio and the practice of those companies maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Every quarter of the year, every 3 months, we have to sit down together and find out what kind of options that they have, what kind of stocks that they have. Do they apply the criteria that we set for them or not? So again, in the real life, it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job to determine the level of Sharia compliance. When it comes to making a choice in your 401k, stay away from an option called the stable value fund. Stable value fund means saving account, as simple as that. If you are not willing to take any risk whatsoever, right? You want to have a peace of mind. You want to get 2 or 3% profit, of course, haram interest. Okay, you go with the stable value fund. You deposit your money, or the investment company deposits, your 401k in cash, putting it in a saving account or a CD, and you just generate 3 or 4% annually. This is absolutely not an option for you. Number 2, balanced fund, 50% stocks, 50% something else. This is again not an option for you. From here on, exclusive stock fund. If your portfolio represents stocks 100%, then actually we are very close to be a Sharia compliant. I would assume that those stocks belong to companies where their core business is a halal one. Whether that exclusive stock fund, whether it is within the USA or you invest internationally, or you limit yourself to the stocks of the company that you work for, this option is called employee stock ownership plan. Employee stock ownership plan. Some companies actually offer a portfolio that is exclusively has their own stocks. So there is no diversity. You work for Shell, for example. Your portfolio is just purely Shell stocks. I'm just giving random examples. Again, from a fiqh perspective, we do not care about all these details. What we care about is the nature of the portfolio. What kind of financial instruments you have, okay? To which industry those stocks belong to. Halal industry, then we need to dig in depth. How much is the debt asset ratio? How much is the interest bearing investment? How much is the actual interest that they generate? If it is more than 5%, then that company actually is not an option for you. Same for the 529 for the education of your kids. Student loans, briefly. Again, in our fiqh council, we did actually discuss it in depth, and we came up with the official position. We said that we parents have to encourage our students, our kids, to be active enough, looking for halal by default sponsorship opportunities. There are a lot of sponsorship opportunities, but unfortunately, most of our kids are not active or even caring enough, with all due respect, to go after those different halal by default sponsorship opportunities. There are a lot of them available: grants, financial aid, scholarships. If all the above, okay, are insufficient or not available for whatever reason might be, then going with the subsidized loan would be an option. Subsidized loan is an interest-free loan. for a certain period of time, usually given to undergrad students based on financial need. You have to prove that you are financially challenged. You apply for subsidized student loan. You get the money. The money actually is not given cash to you. It is paid on your behalf to the college as a tuition fees. And then toward the end of the program, like upon your graduation, you will be getting sometimes 6 months, sometimes 9 months grace period, where you are expected to pay off the whole loan in full. If you successfully paid it, then there are no consequences. There is no interest. If you failed in paying in full, which is most probably the case, okay, because it's really hard, like for you to pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 within 6 months. Some of our kids even, cannot even have a job within 6 months after their graduation. So if you default in paying in full, then the loan actually will be converted to an interest-bearing loan, and consequently you have to pay interest. Now the critical question here is, what if the subsidized loan is not available or insufficient, okay, or not given to graduate students? Someone is pursuing master's or PhD or postdoctorate degree or MD, whatever the graduate study might be. And the only option that he or she has is unsubsidized loan. Unsubsidized loan, unfortunately, is an interest-bearing loan. Question here, can our students apply for unsubsidized loan, interest-bearing loan from day one? We found out, again, when I say we, I refer to our fiqh council. We found out that yes, there is a way to permit unsubsidized loan based on a definition of الضرورة, which is ما يلحق المكلف ضرر بتركه ولا يقوم غيره مقامه. In a very simple language, if a certain need is there, and higher education actually is a need. Higher education is a need. It's not a necessity. We can survive without having college degree, but it is a legitimate and public need, right? Okay. Our opinion, our official position is that if that public and general need, which is higher education in our case, cannot be achieved without borrowing money with interest, then borrowing money with interest becomes a darura, becomes a kind of necessity. So you want to pursue a degree, you do not have money, and the only option you ended up having only one option. You either take interest-bearing loan to pursue a degree, or otherwise you drop the college and you just go work somewhere else. If that is the case, and كل نفس بما كسبت رهين, everybody knows his situation more than anybody else. If that is the case, then borrowing money with interest as a kind of necessity to pursue higher education actually would be permitted. You might not feel comfortable allowing your kids applying for interest-bearing loan, but there is difference between like taqwa and being pious and just staying the right path, right, versus the fatwa. The fatwa is completely different. Can a Muslim student, apply for an interest-bearing loan if this is the only option for him or her to pursue a degree, like a college degree? The answer actually is yes. This is not my personal opinion. This is the official position of our fiqh council. Life insurance, and I will stop after that. As you all know, the mainstream fatwa, okay, the I would say consensus nowadays between different fiqh councils and different contemporary scholars, they do believe that any kind of commercial insurance as opposed to government-based insurance. Government-based insurance like Medicare, like Medicaid, like Social Security in the United States, those are the government-based insurance. Is that correct? Anything else is called commercial insurance. Commercial means non-governmental. That commercial has two different kinds. It could be like a mutual-based insurance, and it could be stock-based. Mutual-based means that kind of structure cares the most about the best interest of the shareholders of the policyholders, not the shareholders, of the policyholders. Because if you have a policy with a mutual based insurance company, it means by default that you are one of the shareholders. Every single policyholder is a shareholder. There are no two different bodies, unlike if the insurance company is a stock-based one. Stock-based one means that we have two different bodies. Okay, we have the shareholders versus the policyholders, and always there is a conflict of interest between the two different bodies, right? Back to the mainstream fatwa, those mashayikh and ulama and fiqh councils are of the opinion that anything belongs to the government, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, is halal by default, because the main reason behind having those contracts or agreements with people is to assure their best interest, is to serve them as needed, like in case of retirement, in case of disability, in case of sudden death. They say that anything else, especially if it is like a stock-based or commercial insurance, is not allowed. This assumption actually is based on, again, what they believe in, that based on the differentiation between what is called a bilateral agreement versus unilateral agreement. Unilateral agreement means like one-sided commitment. Bilateral agreement means two-sided commitment. When you get involved in a sale agreement, this is a bilateral agreement, right? Okay, you get involved in buying something, and the other party actually gives you the money to buy it from you, or gives you the property in order for you to pay him money. Okay. Now the reality actually is that every single insurance policy, whether it is a government, and I want you to pay attention to this, every single insurance policy, whether it is a government-based or mutual-based or stock-based, is a bilateral agreement. Bilateral agreement in a sense, I'll give you an example. What if you do not have an account for some reason? What if you do not have an account with the Social Security? There is no certain amount deducted from your account going to your from your paycheck going to your Social Security. Just assume that you do not have that account. And Allah forbids you passed away. Do you think that the Social Security Administration would commit to paying your family members money on a monthly basis? Will they do that? They will not, because there is no agreement between you and them. Okay? Because your agreement with the Social Security, with the Medicare, with the Medicaid, is a bilateral agreement, in a sense that no one actually is doing you a favor. It's not a sadaqah, it's not a donation, it is a contract, it is a legal contract. You pay this amount of money, and in case of death or disability or retirement, I will pay you this amount of money, right? Social Security Administration is telling you, give me $100 a month, for example, $100 a month, and do not worry. If something happened to you, if you passed away, if you became like handicapped, right? Even in case of retirement, I will be committing to paying your family members certain amount of money based on those conditions. Your wife, for example, will be getting a monthly salary all the way until the end of her life. Your children, your kids, will be getting money until the age of 20, whatever the specification might be. But at the end of the day, they are telling you, if you pay me $100 a month, I will pay your family members XYZ amount of money. So far, so good? The life insurance company, life insurance, again, whether it is a mutual or stock-based, is telling you, if you pay me $100 a month and then you pass away, I will pay your family members XYZ amount. And the question here, what is the difference in the nature of the agreement? What is the difference in the nature of the agreement between Social Security from one side, Medicare and Medicaid, versus life insurance? To my knowledge, and I might be wrong, there is no difference in the nature of the agreement itself. There is no difference in the nature. I mean, this is a bilateral agreement, a commitment, and this is a bilateral agreement and commitment. Again, no one is doing you a favor. It's not a sadaqah or donation. It is a legal commitment. You paid during your lifetime certain amount of money, you will be getting in return certain amount of money. Now, if the Social Security is paying you on a monthly basis and the life insurance company is paying you like one wet check of $1 million, it doesn't make any difference from a fiqh perspective. Okay? At the end of the day, you or your family members receive money way more than what you have paid during your lifetime. What happened is that back in the 1970s and 80s of the last century, when commercial insurance was discussed on a scholarly level within the different fiqh councils, there was, as I said, like a semi-unanimity that any kind of commercial insurance is a haram one, with very few exceptions. One of those exceptions is Sheikh Mustafa al-Zarqa, rahmatullah alayh. Sheikh Mustafa al-Zarqa is a Hanafi Syrian faqih who was with the opinion that insurance as a concept is a pure, genuine Islamic concept. It is set actually as a kind of cooperation between people to reduce or to keep the financial risk to the minimum for those who are involved in any financial problem. And he made himself clear from the beginning that insurance is a halal. Okay? And like if you check the different declarations of different fiqh accounts, you will find that all the congregants or the scholars were almost unanimous that life insurance is haram, commercial insurance is haram, except for Sheikh Mustafa al-Zarqa. It came to my mind a few years ago to go back and to read the argument of Sheikh Mustafa al-Zarqa. And I went to his book. I read it twice, word by word, sentence by sentence, twice. And I found out that the argument that he made is very reasonable. Okay? It is actually what I already presented, that all these different kinds of insurance are bilateral agreements, uqood, muawadat. If you commit yourself to paying a certain amount of money, you will be eligible to receive certain amount of money. It could be cash money, it could be like non-monetary compensation, like if you have a car insurance. The car insurance company does not pay you cash money, but they fix your car or they replace your car if it is fully damaged, right? When it comes to health insurance, you do not receive cash money. They pay the medical bills on your behalf. When it comes to life insurance, they pay you cash money. He said that concept-wise, legality-wise, fiqh-wise, all these different contracts are the same. So based on that, you either prohibit everything, including Social Security, including Medicare and Medicaid, and any kind of mutual-based insurance, any kind of stock-based insurance, or otherwise, you just permit all of them. He was with the opinion that all these contracts are the same, like legal speaking, and fiqh-wise, they are halal. Few years ago, actually, I officially changed my mind, and I'm now with the opinion that any kind of insurance is a halal contract by default. Number of scholars who are changing their mind and switching from haram life insurance to halal life insurance actually is increasing, I would say, significantly. Sheikh Abdullah ibn Mni', who is a member in the Senior Scholars Council of Saudi Arabia, a few years ago he changed his mind and he followed Sheikh Mustafa al-Zarqa. So when I sit here today and talk to my community and telling them that I do believe that life insurance or any kind of commercial insurance is halal by default, I'm backed up by those well-known scholars. I do believe that life insurance actually is a halal one. If you want to be in the safe side, and you want to have life insurance, okay, without violating the semi-consensus of the prohibition of life insurance, maybe you can look for a mutual-based life insurance company and purchase your life insurance policy from them. If you do so, you are still in a compliance with the mainstream fatwa, because they do differentiate between stock-based and mutual-based. They said that mutual-based is not for profit, right? All the surplus or the extra money is paid back or to be paid back to the policy holders, who are by default the shareholders. Unlike if that insurance policy belongs to stock-based insurance company, that structure actually cares the most about the best interest of the shareholders. So be in the safe side if you would like to. Okay, you can catch two different birds in one stone. You can have your own life insurance, right? And in a halal way, according to the mainstream fatwa, by purchasing a life insurance policy with a mutual based insurance company and not stock-based mutual company. I was supposed to take only 45 minutes, but I exceeded the time. It's now 6:04. Let me just stop here and take your comments and your questions. وجزاكم الله خيرا كثيرا for listening. Financing what? I'm sorry. It depends on the deal. Is it an owner finance or through a third party? Owner finance means that there is no third party to lend you the money. Someone has a car and he's asking for $10,000 cash, and you do not have 10,000. So he said, okay, I'm gonna make it $12,000. Even if he says that 10,000 is the price, 2,000 is the interest, this is not an interest, because you are not borrowing money from anyone, right? If he does have the right to ask for $12,000 cash for a car that's worth 10,000, then he can break it down to 2 or 3 years. So if it is an owner finance one, go for it. Not only that, if it is a zero APR, okay, certain car dealerships for certain reason, they offer zero APR. Zero APR means interest-free loan for a certain period of time. Interest-free loan, just one second. Interest-free loan for a certain period of time, right? 2 years, 3 years, whatever. If you are almost positive that you can afford paying the monthly payment, and it is zero APR, that would be a reasonable option. It's not halal by default, but it's not haram by default, because this is something in between. If you default in paying on time, right, you subject yourself to paying interest. What if you commit to paying on a monthly basis? What will happen? There will be no interest, right? Now, the third scenario actually is to have a certain APR, right? You want to buy 2022 Corolla, for example, right? And Toyota car dealership, they have a Toyota finance department, but they offer you 3% APR. Some of us think that Toyota finance and Toyota car dealership, both of them are one entity, which is not the case. They are not. Toyota finance, believe it or not, is financially, administratively, legally is completely different entity. So if what they offer you is a certain APR, whether it is 1 or 10, it doesn't make any difference, then you are borrowing money from a third party for interest. You are borrowing money, okay, from a third party for interest. Even if that third party is Toyota Finance, again, it's completely independent organization that has nothing to do whatsoever with Toyota car dealership. The bottom line here is that if the offer is zero APR, you can take it if you are positive that you can handle the payment. You can, keep up with the payment without any default. Right. We issued a fatwa regarding cryptocurrency 3 years ago on our website in amjaonline.org. We said that it is a decentralized currency from day one. There is no way to track or to find out the reason behind the significant fluctuation in the market value of those cryptocurrencies, and in particular Bitcoin, right? There is no general acceptance or prevailing acceptance of this currency in the same way that we do have prevailing acceptance and general acceptance for the American dollars that we deal with. Based on that, 3 years ago, we said that Muslims should stay away from cryptocurrency. We did not even say it is haram, but it's not halal because of the significant amount of risk that you get involved in whenever you trade in a cryptocurrency. Nowadays, toward the end of 2021, the level of prevailing acceptance is increasing tremendously. Some central banks, believe it or not, they started recognizing cryptocurrency. I have heard, I'm not sure, that even the IRS here in the USA will be charging tax on cryptocurrency. Is that correct? Is that proven? Starting next year, 2022. This actually gives more credit, if you wish, more credit to cryptocurrency. I was assigned by the Resident Fatwa Committee to draft a fatwa regarding cryptocurrency. I just finished and submitted my proposal to them, like even 1 hour before coming here. It's not officially our position. We are still discussing it. But honestly, with the given circumstances that the amount of prevailing and general acceptance is increasing, and the fact that a lot of retail banks are accepting cryptocurrency, you can open, they accept it as a payment method, and a lot of international, intercontinental, companies, they do accept cryptocurrency as a method of payment. So it's almost there. Once we reach to a conclusion that cryptocurrency is, as acknowledged, as accepted as fiat money, it becomes halal by default. As of today, we are in between, like on the fence. I would assume, within 1 year from now, wallahu alam, cryptocurrency will be imposing itself on the market, on the international market, and no one actually can deny it. Those scholars who believe that it is haram, I don't think they have a solid evidence for that claim. Anything that people actually agree to use as a method of payment, okay, as a measurement of value. You say that this phone worth $50, while this laptop worth $70. Based on what? Based on amount of dollars, right? So it is a measurement of value. Well, nowadays actually people are using cryptocurrency as a measurement of value and as a method of payment, right? So it's almost now halal. However, if you decide to proceed with this kind of business, buying and selling, you need to be careful, because honestly, the amount of ambiguity is significant enough. Until today, I could not understand why Bitcoin's value went almost 70% down, if you remember, back in 2016 or 17. Now actually it's booming, it's going up, maybe $60,000-$65,000 per unit. What is the reason behind that fluctuation? No one knows. Someone actually is playing from behind the scene and doing some magic. So it's not a pure halal option. It's not haram. I would say go for it, but you need to be careful.
Sheikh, how about option trading? Stock but option.
You are not buying any commodity or merchandise. You are not buying any service that has a value. Options means that you buy the right of buying, and in reality you do not buy. You are not even allowed to buy the stock. It's just an option to buy, and you are free to sell that option to others. All right. It is a kind of speculation, and different fiqh councils actually very clear that options are not an option. Some people said, okay, it is halal to do mortgage in New York. The bank over here comply. It is true. Well, if the Islamic mortgage companies are not Sharia compliant, 100%, not even 70%, then how about the traditional banks and mortgage companies? This is incorrect. Student loans also halal does not sound right. Well, do not take it. It's up to you. Okay, I worked for a bank and have 401k. Okay, I worked for a bank and I have 401k. and little retirement with them. I'm not working for them anymore, but it is invested there. Is that halal? Well, it depends on the nature of your 401k, what kind of portfolio you have, and basically you are not even supposed to work for a conventional bank. Okay, if it is not, what should I do with it? You need to find out. I mean, what kind of portfolio. Maybe the best option you have now is to roll over your 401k to any of the Sharia compliant mutual fund or Muslim based mutual fund companies. Bitcoin, is it halal or haram? I just answered the question. طيب, back to the brothers.
I have a question.
Sure.
As you mentioned, sir, that the stock investment, if I don't know where I invested, after 5 years or 10 years, I gain the money from that investment. That money I could use in a good deed, like performing Hajj or Qurbani, all kind.
Well, there is no connection. There is no connection between the permissibility of the money and the validity of the Hajj. I mean, this is like a very common mistake or misunderstanding. Some people think that if the source of money or income is haram or not purely halal, then my Hajj is not accepted. Well, Hajj actually is a physical ibadah. If you comply with the requirements of the arkan and the wajibat of the Hajj, like you do the tawaf and the sa'i and the rami and you do all the Hajj rites or Hajj rituals, then outwardly your Hajj actually is acceptable or accepted inshallah by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regardless of how did you sponsor your Hajj. So the permissibility of your income or your career has nothing to do with the validity or the acceptability of your Hajj. I wish this answers the question, inshallah. Yeah, did I answer the question, Akhi?
Yeah, I think.
طيب. Yes, sir.
Can you repeat the question?
Insurance income and social security, they are halal. But if you see how they invest their money, they invest in annuities and the bonds, which give them the fixed income. That's why they give you and these other people the social security. So how come it's that the investment is haram and the income is halal?
More than one thing here. Number one, life insurance companies, commercial insurance, whether stock or mutual based, okay, they invest the surplus in different ways. Most probably in a haram way. Most probably in opening saving accounts and generating interest, right? But this actually applies to Social Security as well. See? So this is one thing. The other thing, we need to distinguish between the nature of the agreement. Can I commit myself to paying certain premium in order for me to be eligible to receive certain compensation? This is one from one side. Versus how do the administration of that insurance company, whether government-based or non-government-based, invest the money. Now the fact that, like, if you agree with me, just for discussion purposes, that I do believe that insurance is halal. Well, the contract itself is halal. Now, it is completely a separate discussion. How do they invest the money? Do we have a word to say on how the money should be invested? The answer is no, right? Even if you work for corporate America, for example, you know for a fact that the money that your company is making is not 100% halal, right? They do invest in the stock market, and they have bonds, and they have CDs and saving accounts. But you receive the money as a compensation, as a salary, because you like designate your time Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 based on your degree and certificate. You deserve a certain amount of money as a compensation, as a salary. So you do not take it as an interest or haram money. You take it as a compensation because you are employed by that company. So the fact that their source of income or part of it is haram does not make it haram for you to take the money, because you take it as a salary, as a compensation. You see what I'm saying? Using the same concept, if you agree with me that life insurance is halal, then you deserve the compensation, like the insurance benefit they call it, right? You deserve it based on the contract, based on the halal contract. How did they make that money? That's completely different discussion. Make sense? Yes.
Regarding health insurance, we are giving money to somebody and uncertainty, like I may get sick, I may have problem like this. So how this separate from like unknown thing? I'm worried about unknown, and instead of last with if I'm good, then why I should buy health insurance?
Well, I might actually disagree with you that there is a kind of ambiguity or misrepresentation here. What I'm buying actually is the assurance or the peace of mind. The insurance company, again, whether it is Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security or life insurance company, they are telling me that if something happened to you, I am committed to paying you a certain amount of money. So this is actually what I'm buying from them. What I'm paying for is the assurance, is the legal commitment to pay me in case of having risk. I'll give you an example. Do you think that bodyguardship business, haram or halal, like to assign someone to be your bodyguard, is it haram or halal business? It should be a halal one, right? I mean, someone is accompanying you. He's telling you, do not worry. You just go, do whatever you want. If someone tries to tackle you, I will defend you. Well, that bodyguard might spend the whole month long accompanying you without facing any unfortunate incident. He did not do anything other than just drinking coffee and maybe smoking, right? And at the end of the month, you pay him $5,000 because he committed to defending you physically in case of being assaulted or tackled by anyone. The life insurance company is telling you, do not worry. If you commit to paying me $100 a month, and if you pass away, rest in peace, do not worry. Okay, I will be taking care of your family members. So honestly, I do not see that ambiguity or misrepresentation, because what I'm buying is the assurance, is the peace of mind, is the legal commitment to paying me. Okay, and again, if you want to apply this concept, then you should conclude that Social Security is haram as well. Am I correct? Do you know, akhi, when you're going to pass away? You do not know. Do you know how much your family members, Allah forbids, whenever you pass away, how much they want to be getting upon your death? You do not know. So we either apply that hurma, that prohibition to everything, or we just, believe that everything is halal. I'm now with the opinion that honestly I do not see any difference between life insurance and Social Security. All of them are halal. I do have my own life insurance policy, and I think that I have done the right decision. Wallahu alam. I might be wrong.
Yeah, about the life insurance,
طيب we need to organize the discussion. I'm sorry. تفضل.
About the life insurance, I don't think that this will be halal because thing is that it's happening, it's like a gambling. On the occasion of happening something, you are getting back something. And another thing of gambling is cash in terms of cash. Like health insurance, it should be allowed because this is cash in terms of service you are getting. But when cash for cash, it should be haram. And the happening of uncertainty means that on the happening of your death, you will get something. And
So based on that, Social Security should be haram. It's cash for cash.
it's secured by the state government. If you have to live in this country, the government is giving you forcefully, and you have to adopt this. You have no choice of living your country.
What does hold on.
When you're doing a life insurance, you have a choice. You can take it or you cannot.
Okay. What does the obligation of the government having Social Security to do with the permissibility of Social Security? I mean, I do not see any connection between the two. You are mandated by the government of the United States to have a Social Security account. Is that correct? Well, if you believe that Social Security is haram, then you have to find out how much you paid or how much money was deducted from your salary, and your family members, Allah forbids, after long life, upon your death, cannot take more than what you have paid during your lifetime. Am I correct? Okay. Now, do you believe that your family members are prohibited from taking more than what you have paid during your lifetime?
Actually, these are the laws. When you in Islamic law,
Hold on. I want to hear an answer, Akhi. do you think that your family, I'm sorry, akhi, I'm not putting you in the spot, wallahi, just a discussion, friendly discussion. Okay? Do you believe, akhi, I mean, if you believe that Social Security is haram, right? But you are mandated by the law of the land to have it, then you have to limit yourself or family members. They have to limit themselves to benefiting from the money or the premium that you have paid in your life. If you paid $7,000 and then you passed away, and upon receiving $7,000, they have to quit. They cannot take more than that. Are you willing to prohibit your family members from taking more than $7,000? The answer is no, right? So honestly, I do not see any relevance between having Social Security as a government, mandatory or mandate by the government versus its permissibility. It's completely two different things. Wallah. Based on that, you cannot even take any benefit from the life insurance offered by your employer. You cannot. I mean, based on what we have said, even if your employer offers you life insurance, you cannot take it. Are you willing to deny the life insurance benefit of your employer?
Because there's no money involved, so I'm not playing in gambling. Gambling is when you put your money and out of the...
I'm not receiving an answer, akhi. Again, if your employer, akhi, is offering you life insurance and you believe that life insurance is haram, okay, are you just said that it's haram. Well, when you have in a business, akhi, when you have a grocery store, you invest cash money and you receive cash money. Where is the haram? No, akhi, hold on. You have $100,000 and you purchased, cars, okay, for business purposes. You might make a profit and you might incur loss. So the nature of gambling is every time, everywhere. Am I correct? Akhi, when you play lottery, like you buy a ticket for $10, okay, you might lose it and you might receive $100. When you put that $10 in a business, okay, you buy something halal, you might lose it and you might make money. So what is the difference? I mean, based on your argument, everything, akhi, is gambling. Everything is gambling. Think about it more. Let me, okay. Sheikh, would you please organize the discussion because you have like too many, please.
We have just a few minutes. I think I would...
And I can smell the biryani, right?
Food is there and everything is ready, alhamdulillah. So I would request the Sheikh that just within 5 minutes if we could wind up everything. And
Can you organize the question and answer, Sheikh? Because
yes, please, just 5 minutes. So I think there are 2 questions we can take. And so, if someone has already got 1 question, so please allow other brothers to have questions.
second question will be riba, will be interest. So only one.
And Sheikh, if you have some other question, inshallah, after Salat al-Isha, just for a few minutes, Sheikh, inshallah, is here. You can ask him, inshallah, personally. Yes, brother. Yes.
Clarify if insurance, life insurance is permissible or not. That's what his question is.
Yeah, and I said that to my knowledge, life insurance is halal. Halal. It is halal. I mean,
Yes, brother.
no, actually, well, I mean, he was actually discussing because this is the most prevailing opinion. I mean, this is what we have heard from our mashayikh and scholars for the last maybe 40, 50 years. So to change or to find out that the prevailing opinion is not correct, it's hard to change. That's why he's like
Okay, yes.
تفضل. cannot hear you.
If you have, you know, if you have your company job, you have a 401k, right? And you've been paying on it for however long. But let's say you never managed the portfolio. If you haven't managed the portfolio for an amount of time, so you don't know how much of it's halal, how much of it's not, how do you reconcile that?
I would say the brother is asking about having 401k or retirement account for a while, right? Without even bothering checking what kind of portfolio you have. It didn't come to your mind or you did not care, whatever the reason might be. I would say akhi, from now on, you need to take it more seriously, dig in depth, find out, analyze, unlock the secret of the portfolio that you have, find out what kind of financial instruments you have, and take it from there. Find out how much haram, how much halal. Run your portfolio by a specialized wealth manager or financial advisor. Okay, if you can roll over your account to any of those Muslim-based mutual fund companies, that might be an option. If not, then just find out how much the haram involved in it, and from now on, just dispose the profit of the exact percentage of haram, as I already explained. Pay zakatul mal in your 401k, and that will be it. I mean, this is the best you can do. But do not compromise your 401k, please.
This last question from this person.
My question is that ETF is halal or is haram, like exchange traded fund, investing.
ETF?
Electronic traded fund.
Yeah, exchange traded fund. That's basically exchange between the exchange. That's exchange traded fund is halal or haram if we invest in the gold or any.
It's a kind of a mutual fund company, but it is a human-free investment. I mean, you set a certain algorithm or formula in order for the investment, like to choose automatically which or the portfolio, to pick automatically whatever is halal that matches your criteria, and to drop whatever is haram. So at the end of the day, it's a kind of investment, like a kind of a mutual fund, or almost a mutual fund. If the criteria set is a halal one, okay, then the investment is halal. If the criteria itself is loose and more like haram, financial instruments are included or accommodated, then that investment actually is not halal. As simple as that.
Core business is completely halal. Like in gold, if your core business is gold, completely halal, right?
It depends, akhi. Are you paying for the gold 100% or not? Are you paying for the gold or not? I mean, you cannot borrow money to buy a gold, or you cannot you cannot. Well, you have to pay it cash, right? It cannot be an installment. If that is the case, then your investment in gold would be fine. Yeah. Maybe I can talk to the committee maybe after Salat al-Isha. Just remind them about the university.
Right after Salah, inshallah. Yes, yeah.
Or now you want to.
No, I think this is better. Yeah.
What's that?
Maybe some other people will join us in the Salah their side. So, Jazakumullahu khair. Once again, thanks to our guest, Dr. Main Al-Khuda, for giving us time. I know it's a very long topic, and we have many questions. Myself, I had some questions, but for the sake of the guests that we have today, I quit all those questions. Inshallah, I will request the Sheikh if he has time, inshallah. Once again, thank you so much for coming. All the brothers, the sisters, you are requested to please go downstairs to the basement and have dinner, inshallah. After the Salah, those brothers who are leaving, inshallah, Sheikh will be just 2 or 3 minutes. He will talk about his guidance college, and he will be appealing the brothers and the sisters that whatever they can donate for the college. The box is there. One is on the sister side and one is here. Sheikh, inshallah, will remind us to us after the Salah. But just in case those brothers who are leaving, the boxes are there. If you want to help, yes, you could do so, inshallah. Jazakumullah.
The bad news actually is that whenever I'm hungry, I do not give any fatwa. So it's now break for dinner. So dinner means no fatwa, please.